And what if the one person capable of exposing her scheme was a dying woman who wrote a letter just weeks before her death? For over 25 years, Judge Lauren Whitmore had ruled over one of the toughest television courtrooms in America. She had seen every kind of lie imaginable: manipulative spouses, corrupt contractors, tenants who fabricated stories, landlords who exploited desperate families. After thousands of cases, there was almost nothing left that could surprise her anymore. And during all those years on the bench, one thing remained absolutely true. Nobody had ever seen Judge Lauren cry, not once. Her reputation was built on control, cold logic, sharp questioning, and a refusal to let emotion interfere with justice. People feared standing in front of her because she had an uncanny ability to recognize dishonesty almost immediately. But on one quiet morning, everything changed. Because an elderly veteran walked into her courtroom carrying a folded letter inside the pocket of his old military jacket, and before the hearing ended, that letter would expose a secret so disturbing that even Judge Lauren struggled to hold herself together. The courtroom buzzed softly as the next case was called. The defendant slowly stepped forward. His name was Daniel Harper. 67 years old, thin shoulders, weathered skin, eyes hollowed out by exhaustion. His faded army jacket hung loosely from his body, the fabric worn from years of use. Most of the insignias had nearly disappeared with time, but one thing still stood out clearly beneath the courtroom lights: a purple heart medal pinned carefully near his collar. Daniel gripped the wooden railing tightly, his hands trembling slightly. Across from him sat Monica Hale, 52 years old, perfectly styled hair, expensive jewelry, a tailored suit that looked it cost more than Daniel had probably seen in months. She sat with complete confidence behind a polished leather briefcase overflowing with paperwork, photographs, police reports, and witness statements. To everyone watching, the case appeared simple. Monica Hale was suing Daniel Harper for unpaid rent, destruction of property, lease violations, and refusing to vacate her apartment after eviction notices were issued. The total damages exceeded $8,000. And based on the evidence stacked neatly before her, Monica looked prepared to win easily. Judge Lauren adjusted her glasses and examined the file carefully. Monica Hale versus Daniel Harper, unpaid rent, property damage. Lease violations documented over nearly a year. She glanced up at Daniel. Something about him didn't fit the story. After decades in courtrooms, Judge Lauren trusted instinct more than appearances. She had learned that guilt carried itself differently than grief, and Daniel Harper did not look like a reckless tenant trying to avoid accountability. He looked like a man already crushed by life long before he entered that courtroom. Monica spoke first. Her tone was calm, professional, and emotionally detached. "Your Honor, this is a straightforward landlord-tenant dispute. Mr. Harper moved into my apartment complex last January. Initially, there were no issues. Then the complaints began: noise disturbances, damage to the property, violations of the lease agreement. I attempted to resolve matters peacefully, but he became increasingly difficult. Eventually, I had no choice but to begin eviction proceedings." She opened her briefcase and removed several photographs. The images showed severe damage inside a small apartment: broken fixtures, large holes punched through drywall, damaged door frames, a shattered sink in the bathroom. Judge Lauren studied each photograph silently. Then she looked toward Daniel. "Mr. Harper," she said firmly, "what exactly do you have to say about these allegations?" Daniel slowly lifted his head. His eyes were bloodshot from exhaustion. For several long moments he said absolutely nothing. Then he reached carefully into the inner pocket of his jacket. He removed a folded piece of paper, old, wrinkled, worn thin from being opened countless times. Even from the bench, Judge Lauren could tell the letter had been carried everywhere. Daniel's voice cracked slightly. "Your Honor, I brought this." He swallowed hard. "It was written by my daughter before she passed away." The entire courtroom fell silent. Judge Lauren's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. She extended her hand. Daniel carefully handed her the letter. The judge unfolded it slowly. As her eyes scanned the first few lines, something changed in her face. The sharpness softened. She paused, then reread the same paragraph again more carefully. The silence in the courtroom became heavy. Bailiff Marcus Reed, who had worked beside Judge Lauren for years, immediately noticed the change in her demeanor and stepped slightly closer to the bench. Even Monica Hale seemed uncomfortable now. Judge Lauren finally lowered the paper but kept one hand resting on top of it, grounding herself when she spoke again. Her voice sounded quieter than before. Mrs. Hale, this letter was written by Daniel Harper's daughter. Her name was Emily Harper. Monica remained silent. Judge Lauren continued. She served as an army medic, 2 overseas deployments. The judge looked directly at Monica. And according to this letter, she also lived in your apartment complex. A ripple moved through the audience. Judge Lauren's eyes narrowed. She fell behind on rent while undergoing treatment for terminal cancer. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Monica immediately straightened. Your Honor, I fail to see how this personal matter relates to. Oh, it relates, Judge Lauren interrupted coldly. It relates very much. The courtroom grew even quieter. Judge Lauren slowly lifted the letter again. This woman wrote about being evicted while she was dying. Monica's confident posture began to crack. Judge Lauren leaned forward slightly. Last night, my staff reviewed public records connected to your property business. Now Monica looked nervous. And what we discovered suggests this case is not isolated. Daniel lowered his head again, tears slipping quietly down his face. Judge Lauren continued staring at Monica. You marketed your apartment complexes specifically toward veterans, correct? Monica nodded cautiously. Yes, Your Honor. You advertise them as veteran-friendly housing? Yes. American flags on the buildings? Yes. Discounted rent for military families? Yes. Judge Lauren opened another folder. How many veterans have you evicted in the past 3 years? Monica hesitated. I don't know the exact number. Estimate, maybe 10. Judge Lauren's expression hardened. Court records show 23. Whispers spread across the gallery. Monica shifted uncomfortably. Judge Lauren flipped through several documents. Every one of those evictions followed nearly the same timeline. Another page turned, 8 to 11 months of tenancy. Another page, claims of excessive property damage. Another, large repair bills. Another, collections filed after tenants failed to pay. Judge Lauren slowly closed the folder. That is an interesting pattern, Mrs. Hale. Monica crossed her arms defensively. Veterans sometimes struggle with PTSD and emotional instability. Property damage happens. I can't be expected to absorb repair cost because someone had difficulty adjusting after deployment. Judge Lauren's eyes narrowed instantly. Sympathetic language from someone who appears remarkably unsympathetic. The room went silent again. Judge Lauren picked up Emily's letter carefully. Emily Harper moved into your complex in March of 2020. She continued reading from the file. She informed management she was undergoing chemotherapy for stage 4 breast cancer and required accessible housing during treatment. Monica said nothing. In late 2020, she fell behind on rent because her medical treatments exceeded $8,000 per session and her insurance coverage failed. Judge Lauren looked directly at Monica. She contacted you requesting temporary accommodation until her veteran benefits arrived. Monica folded her hands tightly. I'm a landlord, Your Honor. I'm not a charity organization. Judge Lauren's voice became dangerously calm. So you evicted her. I followed the law. You evicted a dying veteran. I followed legal procedures. Judge Lauren stared at her silently for several seconds, then spoke again. Emily Harper died 2 months later. The courtroom became completely still. She died inside a veteran's shelter after being removed from your property. Several audience members shook their heads in disgust. One woman quietly wiped tears from her eyes. Monica's attorney leaned toward her nervously, but Monica pulled away. I didn't know she was going to die that quickly, she whispered defensively. Judge Lauren carefully unfolded the letter again. This is what Emily wrote 2 weeks before her death. Her voice remained steady, but emotion lingered beneath it. Dad, I'm sorry I couldn't stop the eviction. The treatments made me too weak to fight anymore. Mrs. Hale came to the hospital asking about money she claimed I owed for damages. I told her I was dying. She said that wasn't her concern. A horrified silence filled the courtroom. Judge Lauren paused briefly before continuing. Dad, if she ever comes after you, don't stay silent. She targets veterans because she thinks we're broken. She believes we won't fight back. But we survived war. We can survive people like her too. Judge Lauren stopped reading. For the first time in her career, her eyes filled with tears. The courtroom noticed immediately. Daniel stood frozen, tears streaming openly down his face. Monica's confidence completely disappeared. Judge Lauren inhaled slowly, trying to regain composure. Then she looked directly at Monica. You went to a cancer ward to collect money from a dying woman? That's not what happened, Monica whispered. Then explain it. No answer came, only silence. Judge Lauren slowly placed the letter back on her desk. We are taking a 15-minute recess. Her voice became colder. And when this court reconvenes, we are going to discuss exactly what my investigators uncovered about your business practices. She paused. And Mrs. Hale, I strongly suggest you prepare yourself for what comes next.